In the silent mountains of ancient Japan, a disciple was admired by all for his impeccable discipline. He never failed. He never complained. He never raised his voice. Years later, when his mind faded away in silence and his place was left empty, the masters understood too late that the perfection they had celebrated was also the burden that broke him. This is the story of the exemplary apprentice whose fall no one saw coming. In a Zen monastery hidden among cedar forests and persistent mist, where the sound of the wind seemed like a constant teaching, lived Akira, a young apprentice who had arrived from a humble village. The place breathed order, repetition, and stillness. Every dawn was identical to the one before it. Every gesture had a purpose. From the very first day, Akira understood that talent was not rewarded there. Only silent consistency was. While other apprentices struggled with posture, fatigue, or frustration, Akira remained motionless like a rock, his back straight, his gaze lowered, his breathing precise. The masters watched him with quiet approval. His companions admired him in silence. No one ever heard a complaint leave his mouth. No one saw him hesitate. In a short time, his name began to circulate as an example of true discipline. But what no one perceived was the weight Akira carried inside. Every small mistake felt to him like a serious fault. Every correction echoed in his mind for entire nights. Within him, the outward calm turned into constant pressure. Even so, he continued to smile with respect. In that place, showing fatigue was not a virtue. Enduring everything was. The elders of the temple used to say, "The bamboo that does not bend eventually breaks." Yet Akira never allowed himself to bend. When others rested, he remained seated. When others spoke, he stayed silent. And while the monastery celebrated his strength, something within him slowly began to wear down, like a tightly stretched rope that no one ever loosens. As the seasons passed, Akira began to stand out even more. The masters assigned him additional tasks, not as punishment, but as recognition. Cleaning in silence after midnight, meditating while others slept, carrying responsibilities no one else asked for. Each task was received with a slight bow of the head and a "yes, master." On the outside, it was honor. On the inside, it was accumulation. The other apprentices began to compare themselves to him. Some felt inspired, others felt small beside him. Without intending to, the monastery raised an invisible standard. "Look at Akira," they would say. "That is how discipline is practiced." No one noticed that this constant praise also isolated him. He was no longer a companion. He had become a measure, and measures do not rest. One night, during a prolonged meditation, Akira felt his breathing fall out of rhythm. It was not physical pain, it was something more subtle. A sense of emptiness, as if all his effort was still not enough. He adjusted his posture, he clenched his teeth. He remained still. When the session ended, no one noticed anything unusual. He said nothing either. In that place, speaking about what was inside was not customary. From that moment on, small cracks began to appear. He woke before the gong, slept less, thought more. His mind reviewed every gesture of the day, searching for flaws. If he made even the slightest mistake, he repeated it until exhaustion. The master saw him as more dedicated than ever. His outward progress concealed a silent erosion that advanced without witnesses. One afternoon, an elderly monk of the temple observed him while he swept the courtyard. He noticed something different in his eyes. There was no calm, only contained tension. He was about to say something, but he remained silent. "If I speak, I will break his concentration," he thought. Respect overruled intuition. Akira continued sweeping leaves that the wind returned again and again, as if the task had no end. Over time, Akira's body began to obey out of habit, but his mind no longer rested. Even in moments of pause, He felt he should be doing something else. If he sat down, he reproached himself for not meditating. If he meditated, he thought he should be serving. Discipline, which had once been a path, became a silent judge that was never satisfied. During an important ceremony, Akira was chosen to lead the final movements. It was an honor reserved for those who showed inner balance. He executed each gesture with absolute precision. No one noticed that, when it ended, his hands trembled for just an instant. The applause was silent, as tradition required. But the approval was felt in the air. Akira bowed his head. Inside, something closed. That night, the sound of the forest felt foreign to him. The wind among the cedars no longer brought calm, but noise. Akira realized he had been moving forward for a long time without asking himself where he was going. But even that doubt felt like a fault. Doubt is weakness, he repeated to himself. And so he fell silent again. And in falling silent, he reinforced the wall that separated him from others. The masters began to use his story as a teaching for the new apprentices. True discipline does not announce itself, they would say, pointing to him with respect. Akira heard those words as one receives an added weight. He no longer felt he could fail. If he fell, the example fell. And carrying a symbol is heavier than carrying oneself. That was when something imperceptible to everyone, yet decisive for him, occurred. In the middle of a habitual practice, Akira remained motionless for a few seconds longer than necessary. Not because of calm, but because of emptiness. The master interpreted it as deep silence. Akira understood something else. He had crossed an inner limit. From that moment on, he knew he could not continue the same way. But he also did not know how to stop. From that day forward, Akira began to function as always, but without presence. He fulfilled his duties, obeyed, and moved forward. From the outside, nothing had changed. From the inside, everything was mechanical. The discipline remained intact, but it no longer sustained anything. He was like a perfect bowl, empty, and no one suspects a bowl until it breaks. The masters interpreted his stillness as spiritual maturity. He has reached depth, they said. They even spoke of sending him soon to teach others. That news, which would have filled anyone with pride, fell upon Akira like a heavy slab. If he moved forward, he would not be able to stop. If he spoke, he would betray the image everyone revered. One morning, during meditation, Akira experienced a brief and piercing clarity. He was not tired of the path. He was tired of not being seen, not as an example, but as a human being. The revelation lasted only an instant. Then he buried it beneath habit. At that point, the story could no longer turn back. The monastery entered a period of deep calm. Everything seemed in order. It was the false stillness before the break. Akira smiled, bowed his head, responded with precision, but his gaze no longer reflected presence, only absence, like a lamp that is lit, but no longer gives warmth. An elderly master, the oldest in the temple, watched him in silence and murmured to himself, "When effort cannot breathe, it ceases to be virtue." He thought about speaking to him, but the moment passed. In places where silence is sacred, respect is sometimes mistaken for abandonment. And that confusion carries a price. One dawn, the gong sounded and Akira did not come. It was not rebellion, it was absolute stillness. The apprentices thought he was in advanced practice. The masters assumed deep concentration. Hours passed. The temple kept its rhythm. Only when the sun was high did someone notice that his mat remained untouched, as if time itself had decided not to touch it. They found him seated with correct posture and a serene face, but absent. There were no visible signs of struggle, only an ancient exhaustion that no one had wanted to read before. Silence fell heavily, different from the usual one. It was not peace, it was belated understanding. They understood that discipline sustained without space to feel can also empty a person from within. The masters reviewed the days that had passed, the words left unsaid, the glances ignored. They remembered every praise that isolated him, every burden added without asking. They understood that they had confused strength with silence, maturity with endless endurance. Akira had not failed. The environment had failed to listen to what was never spoken. The temple changed from that moment on. It was taught that discipline must breathe, that stillness also requires care, that no one is an example all the time. In the corridors, Akira's name was no longer used to measure others, but to remember that even what appears impeccable needs rest and companionship. Not every collapse makes noise. Some falls happen while everyone is applauding. True wisdom does not demand absolute silence, but balance. Because discipline that does not listen ends up breaking what it seeks to shape. And sometimes the deepest lesson arrives when there is nothing left to learn, except how to see more clearly.